Welcome to week 5. You did a better job than I expected on the discussion of knowledge. That was a difficult chapter, as some of you pointed out, and it's okay if you didn't catch all of it, right? Grand scheme of things, what was happening in that chapter. So, for example, Nying did a good job of pointing out what is knowledge. He pointed to the truth, belief, and justification. Most people agree that those three things, or sometimes shorthand is called JTB, are at least necessary for knowledge. But then what happened in the rest of that chapter is, Gettier started this problem of realizing there are these things called Gettier cases, and so if you're going to create a set of necessary and sufficient conditions for what counts as knowledge, it's all going to have a really hard time accounting for all these different Gettier cases, according to just our normal intuitions of what's true in those cases. And so the chapter ended then actually with Huemer saying he doesn't even think there is a set of necessary and sufficient conditions. He thinks the term knowledge is just something that we kind of culturally learn to use like everyone else uses, and it's just kind of a cluster. But so that's one view. That's his view. That's I don't really know how many people would agree with him. I don't think that's the majority view, but that's one view. Which is related, obviously, the whole discussion that several of you want to talk about is being able to define knowledge important. And I guess in a sense, Huemer is going to say no, because he doesn't think there is a definition. But you could see how it's important to understand what we mean by knowledge, or at least understand when we're using the term in different ways, so we're not talking past each other, right? One of the key takeaways I hope that you spotted is that knowledge is different than certainty, right? You can know something even while granting that, okay, fine, there is some conspiracy theory that out there, if it were true, would mean this was false, right? So you can know something without being absolutely certain, as we usually think of the concept, right? And so that's one of the ways we can talk past each other. Proof is another thing that, can mean different things to different people, and these are terms that we need to be careful just to understand that they are not. It's not obvious what these terms mean, and we need to just explain what we mean when we're using them. Regarding phony barns and wishful thinking, there were some interesting things I saw in there. For example, regarding phony barns, most of you thought it's not knowledge if you are in phony barn country. And so, to be clear, you don't know you're in phony barn country in the thought experiment. You just happen to be in driving through an area where all but one of the barns are fake, but you happen to be looking at the real one. So do you look at that, you think that's a barn? Do you know that's a barn? Most people agree, no, you don't know it's a barn. That's what most of you agreed. This is actually one of the main ones I'm not so sure about. I'm looking at a barn. It's really a barn. It's a normal experience. Why should it matter if the rest of the barns around here are fake? That's one of the less clear ones to me. So I'm always interested to hear what people have to say about that one. So I'm not so sure that's a Gettier case, I guess. Regarding wishful thinking, I thought Angela had a really interesting point. She grasped it clearly. So it's basically what's going on is that someone thought it would be fun to make the crazy person always right. And so if the crazy person's always right, does that mean that everything that they think is actually knowledge? Because after all, everything they think is true. Because someone's making it true all the time. It's a funny case, and I don't really know what to do with that one, but that is a great way to think about what's happening. Again, what's the point of all these different versions of Gettier cases, or are they really Gettier cases? The point mostly is, for every definition of knowledge, pretty much every definition of knowledge, someone has thought of a Gettier case that's still that definition falls prey to, and then we circle back around, and it's just there has been so much written on this one question of can we define knowledge. By the way, usually if I teach a longer version of this course, we'd spend another week on knowledge, especially on skepticism, on a different, how much can we know, and what if can we know that we're not living in a dream or a simulation, or all those kinds of weird scenarios, but how do you prove that they're false? and so forth from there. There are a variety of other reasons to be skeptical, like really broadly skeptical, that are worth thinking about, partly just because they help us understand what knowledge is. But we're not going to do all that, but that is in the book, and so if you're interested, you can find it there. All right, let's continue on. We're going to start now on Does God Exist? An always popular question to discuss. So enjoy.